Hi everyone. What we got going on today is we're going to be working with solving quadratics, but this time we're going to be looking at another method. It's called completing the square. The reason this method exists is because you don't always have things that factor easily, and so this is why completing the square can be pretty helpful in solving those quadratics. So here's going to be our first problem: x squared minus 12x plus 7. And so, let's just see like factoring, like here's 7. My factors of 7 would be, well, that's a prime number, so 1 and 7. Well, 1 and 7 get me 8. That doesn't get me anywhere near negative 12. And if it was negative 1 and negative 7, then that would get me negative 8. And again, it doesn't get me anywhere near negative 12. So, obviously, these things just aren't going to work. And so, we're going to be using another method. So when we do that, the very first thing we need to do is set it up in a way where it's like all of our x's are on one side and then we kick, all of our constants to the other side. So I want to move that over there. So I'm going to subtract 7. So subtract 7 on both sides. And we're going to get x squared minus 12x equals negative 7. So here comes kind of like this wonky part. You're going to take your b value, which is negative 12. You're going to divide it by 2, and then you're going to square it. This is called completing the square. Now, there are a lot of different proofs you can look up about, why this works. I'll leave that to you to figure out. Or if you have questions on it, just ask me, and I can go over that with you. But, this is what works. So it is b over 2 squared. Alright, so I'm going to simplify what's inside. Negative 6 squared. And the reason I simplify it like this is like yeah, I know this is negative 6, and then I could just do it all in one step, but I'm actually going to hold on to this number right here. That's going to be really important later. So negative 6 squared, that gives me 36. Alright. So what you do with that 36 is you add it to both sides. X squared minus 12x plus 36 equals negative 7 plus 36. So I'm looking here now, and this left side can get factored easily. So the factors of 36 would be negative 6 and negative 6, because those are what adds up to negative 12. So I get x minus 6, and since it's twice, I'm just going to square it. That's why I held on to this number earlier, because I'm just going to use it. Whatever this number is, I'm just going to regurgitate it over here. And negative 7 plus 36, that gives me 29. Alright, so now we take the square root. So I get x minus 6 equals the positive or negative square root of 29. And let's see, square root of 29, that's not anything simple. Let's see, 4 is 16, 5 is 25, 6 would be 36. So that's not something that can get simplified. So we'll just leave it like that. And then we want to finish solving for x, so we just add 6 to both sides. And I get x equals the positive or negative square root of 29 plus 6. A lot of people will want you to put the 6 in front of this positive or negative part. To me, it doesn't really matter. I don't know why mathematically it changes anything, but this will be your final answer. Now, how can we check? So you're always going to want to go back and check, and so I'll pull up my calculator. All right, there we go, right there. And we're gonna, this is gonna be really annoying to type into x every single time. So a way we can do it is we'll do square root of 29 and then click out of the square root plus 6, and we're gonna store that value in for x. So now we're telling the calculator, hey, hold on to this number, that's gonna be my x value. And now I can just type in, what our original equation was. So x squared minus 12x plus 7. Does that equal 0? Well, right here we're getting this value, and what the calculator is telling us is, this is 1 times 10 to the negative 11, so it's just like you take the decimal point, you move it this way, 11 times. So really we get a really tiny number, and so this is a calculator telling us that this is actually 0. Calculator can't actually figure that out. Now we need to check the negative side. Let's see, I'm going to go out there and grab that, and we'll switch this up to a negative. And just to be clear, this is equal to 0, so the calculator is calculating it out to be as close to 0 as possible. So that one did work. So I just put in the negative square root of 29 plus 6, stored it in for x, and now I want to put in the equation again. And this time, calculator spits it out to be exactly 0. So that's exactly what we wanted it to be. We wanted it to be 0. So since we get 0 on both sides, which means both of these x values, x is when it's positive or negative, we get both of those x values. So that's how we're going to complete the square. So kind of same deal here. Go ahead and do exactly the way we did it last time. Pause it here and work through it. Alright, so now I'm going to take it through, and I'm going to need to kick this 5 over to the right, so add 5 to both sides, and I'm going to get 2x squared plus 2x equals x squared plus 5. Then I need to bring this x to the left side, so minus x squared and minus x squared. Sorry, that's a 2 up there. Here we go. And so I get x squared plus 2x equals, that's gone, so 5. Alright, so now we're ready to go. And off to the side, I'm going to show my work that I'm going to do b over 2 squared. So that's going to give me 2 over 2 squared, which is going to be equal to 1 squared, and 1 squared is 1. So I always do that work off to the side. I kind of have to break out to the side, and so I can bring it back in. So I get x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals 5 plus 1. And since I held on to the factor over here of 1, I know it's going to say x plus 1 squared and equals 6. So now I take the square root, x plus 1 equals, well, square root can't be simplified, so square root of 6. Subtract 1. Oh, I forgot something. Positive or negative. And now subtract 1. So I get x equals the positive or negative square root of 6 minus 1. Yes, you're going to want to check every single answer. This is going to be very important, especially as we move into our next lesson with quadratics. So let's go ahead and check. Alright, so my value is going to be square root of 6 minus 1. And we're going to store that in for x. Then I'm going to type in 2x squared plus 2x minus 5. So I get 2.1 and some change. And I'm going to type in x squared now. So x squared, and we want those two numbers to be the exact same. 2.1 and change. You see, they're exactly the same. So my left side and my right side added up to be the exact same thing. Now I want to do the negative square root of x. So I'm going to come down here. Second, insert negative. Alright. And we're going to do the exact same thing. So 2x squared plus 2x minus 5, grab that. My x value is now exactly what I just put in. And I get 11.89 and change. And then I put in x squared. Get 11.89 and change. So both sides are matching up, which means the x values that I have are working out. Let's move on to another one. This one's going to be a little bit different. So it kind of starts out the exact same way, but if you might notice, I have an a value of 3, and so that's actually going to change some stuff up here. And so what you do when you have an a value that's not 1, like our last two examples, is you're going to want to divide everything by whatever your a value is. So divide by 3. So now I have x squared, and here we have a fraction. We're going to leave it as a fraction. These problems can get kind of messy, but we'll work with them. So minus 4/3 x equals, this is going to be 2/3. All right. And now we from here you proceed the exact same way. So notice my x's are on one side, my constants on the other. So b over 2. So negative 4/3 divided by 2. I write it like this because it just goes straight across the bottom. So this is going to be equal to negative 4/6 squared, which is going to be equal to negative 2/3 squared. And then negative 2/3, let's see, let's pull out my calculator for that. Parentheses, negative 2 divided by 3 squared. Always don't forget those parentheses. 0.44444. So math frac, enter, enter. 4/9. It squares your top and your bottom, your numerator and your denominator. So that equals 4/9. So that's what I'm adding in to both sides of the equation. X squared minus 4/3 x plus 4/9 equals 2/3 plus 4/9. Now I already know what this is going to factor out to be. Like, I already know this because I'm holding on to this number. I don't really need to know, like, figure out what the factors are working with these fractions. I already know it's going to say x minus 2/3 squared. So I'm going to write that down. X minus 2/3 squared. That's going to be equal to, and I just don't want to deal with fractions. So always just, work it out on your calculator. Alpha y equals, enter, 2/3 plus alpha y equals 4/9. Yes, I can definitely do these fractions, but there's no point in getting these wrong. Just type it into the calculator and you'll be correct every time. So we get 10/9. So 10/9. Now we're going to take the square root of both sides. So I get x minus 2/3 equals, and when I have the square root of a fraction, it's going to be square root of 10 over the square root of 9. You just put it to both. And I still have this positive and negative. So let's bring it down. X minus 2/3. That's going to be equal to, let's see, square root of 10. That can't be simplified. So positive and negative square root of 10 over square root of 9. Well, that's 3. So that's why we do this. It's because sometimes they'll work out to be nice. Then we add 2/3 to both sides. And if you notice, I have the same denominator, which means I can combine them. So x equals, where did my mouse go? Positive or negative square root of 10 plus 2 all over 3. Now we want to see if that works out. So here we go, back to the calculator. So this is going to be pretty big to put in, but you just do alpha y equals, enter, square root of 10 plus 2 divided by 3. Enter, that's going to be our fraction. And let's see, 3x squared minus 4x, does that equal 2? That did not equal 2. That means I made a mistake somewhere. Let's see. Added 2/3 minus 2/3. Oh, I know what my mistake is. I'm freaking out because this is on video, but this is good. So I had this, but I totally forgot to store it as x. So I'm going to store it as x now. There we go. Alright, so we got that 1.7. Now I'm saying what the x value is. Alright, there we go. That's the 2. That would have been bad. I would have had to remake the entire video. Um, don't have time for that. So let's keep going. So negative. Oh wait, just want to grab the fraction. Store it as x this time. That's why I always go up and just click it. Is because it's so much easier. Make this a negative now. Enter. So we got negative 0.38 and going on mumbo jumbo. And 3x squared minus 4x, because that's our original equation. Enter. Does that equal 2 as well? Yes, it does. Alright, so you can see right here and right here, those are my two x values, the positive and the negative. And since I'm getting a 2 and a 2, it's working out. So keep going with the fractions. Fractions are not there to scare you, but fractions exist. This isn't a perfect world. So fractions exist. This is going to be our last one. A lot of fractions, but we're going to always hit fractions with these. That's why this method, it's kind of wonky, but keep going with it. So try this problem out, and I'm going to do it right here. So you can check yourself at the end. So I notice right here, dividing by, I have an a value that is not 1, so I have to divide out by that. Divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. So we get x squared minus 1/4 x equals 1/16. Whoa, weird stuff going on, but that's okay. Now we're going to do the b over 2 part. So I'm going to take the minus 1/4 divided by 2 and then square it. So that's going to say negative 1/8 squared. I'm going to hold on to this. And negative 1/8 squared. Yes, I know what it is, but let's just double check it in the calculator. Forgot my 1/8 squared. Sometimes I hit alpha y equals if I'm putting in a lot, but sometimes I just do this just because it's a little bit quicker for me, and then I just switch it into a fraction. Maybe it's not quicker. I haven't timed myself, but we get 1/64, so that's equal to 1/64, and that's what I'm adding in everywhere. So x squared minus 1/4 x plus 1/64 equals, let's see, 1/16 plus 1/64. So I already have 1/64 in, and now I'm going to add 1/16. Alright, math frac, 5/64. Just no point of even, like struggling over it. Just get the right answer. Calculator will get it for you. Wow, now this, if I was told to factor this, I would have been like, no. But I already know what the factors are. It's going to be x minus 1/8. That's why this problem works out. X minus 1/8 squared equals 5/64. Square root on both ends. X minus 1/8. Square root and square cancel each other out. Equals the positive or negative square root of 5 over the square root of 64. Well, this is going to be the square root of 5, and the square root of 64 is 8. So now I'm going to have x, and I'm going to add this 1/8 to both sides. Add the 1/8 equals the positive or negative square root of 5. Oh, that's an awful 5. Let's try that again. Come on, erase it for me. There we go, it's gone. That was an awful 5. That's going to be plus the 1, because I see my denominators are the same, so I'm going to put it all over the denominator. So plus 1 over the 8. Now again, I want to check it, so let's check it every single time. So alpha y equals, enter square root of 5 plus 1 over 8. I'm not going to forget to store it for x, so store it for x. Enter. And now I have 2x squared minus alpha y equals 1 over 2x. And does that equal 1/8? Well, 0.125 math frac. Yes, it does. That one works. Now let's try the negative one. Just go grab the negative. Second insert. Enter, stored. Now we want to put it in. And so let's see, like we just want to find that 0.125. Do I get 0.125? Yep, because that's 1/8. So it works. Both of my x values are working. You really want to check every single time. So I know this is kind of a long video. I show you a lot of different examples, different things that show up. But please, if you have questions, if you're working on a problem and just some numbers aren't working out, you're struggling with the fractions, let me know. I want to help you get through this. My name is Mr. Hernandez, and I'm always here to help.